Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Arjun Chaudhary. We're on the top stories we're tracking for you on Thursday, the 25th of June. Death toll in Pakistan heat wave crosses 1,000. India pledges $1 billion for reconstruction of quake-ravaged Nepal. And activists seek UN help to release Kashmiri leaders from Pakistani detention. And now for all the details. While Pakistan is fighting an intense heat wave, the number of casualties continues to rise in its worst-hit Sindh region. With death toll touching 1,000 by Thursday in the southern province alone, hospitals are overflowing with patients clinging to life.
Life has become a challenge for residents of southern Sindh, with temperatures hovering around 40 degrees for the fifth consecutive day on Thursday. As the sweltering heat refused to die down, the number of deaths further rose in last 24 hours. Over 800 casualties have been reported in Karachi alone, the worst-hit city where major hospitals are struggling to cope with an unprecedented influx of patients seeking treatment for sunstroke-related illness. Nearly 40,000 people have been treated for dehydration, drowsiness and heat exhaustion in various hospitals so far. The local government has also cancelled leaves of all medical personnel and brought in extra help to deal with the onslaught of patients. Adding to the woes is continuous power outages that have made routine work difficult. The slum dwellers in Karachi are bearing the major brunt in the absence of electricity and even water supply.
पानी का ये है, यहाँ पे पानी मोल खरीदना पड़ता है। टैंकर आते हैं, टैंकर डलवाते हैं और बेचने वाले हैं यहाँ पे। वो पानी घंटे के हिसाब से चलाते हैं। 600-700 रुपए घंटा पानी है।
Adding to the worry is a warning from the authorities that it might not be the last time that Pakistan is dealing with extreme weather condition. According to reports, another similar heat wave might hit the commercial hub in the coming weeks.
इस वक्त पाकिस्तान जो है मौसमियाती तब्दीली हैं, इसके अंसर से एक बहुत हाई रिस्क कंट्री बन चुका हुआ है। और ये जो आप आज चीज़ देख रहे हैं, शायद इस किस्म की चीज़ें जो हैं फ्यूचर में हमें और नज़र आएँ। और इसके लिए जो अहम अंसर ये है कि हमें तैयारी की ज़रूरत है।
The calamity comes at a time when Pakistan is observing the holy month of Ramzan, during which Muslims are required to fast from dawn to dusk.
Foreign donors and agencies have promised billions of dollars in aid for Nepal on Thursday. The funds are, however, half of what the Himalayan nation requires to rebuild from the devastating earthquake that killed more than 8,600 people and left millions homeless.
Nepal Prime Minister Sushil Koirala pledged to ensure full transparency in the massive reconstruction work, giving a rest to the fears of international donors over corruption. During the international conference on Nepal reconstruction in capital Kathmandu on Thursday, he further appealed for a robust partnership in rebuilding the quake-devastated country. Over 30 countries took part in the meet to raise funds for Nepal. India has pledged $1 billion in aid for the impoverished nation, a quarter of which will be provided in the form of grant over the next 5 years. Indian Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj, who reached Kathmandu to attend the inaugural session of the conference, confirmed that the amount will be over and above New Delhi's existing aid package announced by Prime Minister Narendra Modi during his Nepal visit last year. India was the first nation to send relief material, aid and equipment when disaster struck, helping in rescuing hundreds of lives on the treacherous terrains of Nepal.
Closely with Government of Nepal in identifying specific reconstruction projects. We are confident that Nepal will utilize the pledges made by the international community in an efficient, effective, transparent and sustainable manner. Equally, we expect that the pledges will be fully realized at an early date.
Many also viewed the conference as an opportunity for the Asian giants to help bring Nepal back on its feet and expand influence in the buffer state. China also approved $483 million for rebuilding Nepal but refrained from specifying its terms. According to reports, Nepal had invited 65 representatives from various nations, development partners and multilateral donor agencies to raise funds for its reconstruction. Officials of international donors on Wednesday took a tour of the various damaged sites to outline their priorities. Around 90% of the country's UNESCO-listed heritage places were badly hit in the disaster. Nepal was hit by a 7.8 magnitude earthquake on April 25th, demolishing more than 500,000 homes. It further faced another major aftershock, measuring 7.3 on May 12th, that brought down the already weakened buildings and infrastructure. The monster trembler and its aftershocks took over 8,600 lives in the country, leaving millions stranded and hundreds unaccounted for.
Pakistani political party, the Muttahida Qawami Movement, has rejected reports that it has been receiving funds and training from Indian agencies. The party called it a part of the media trial it has been facing for many years.
MQM chief Altaf Hussain on Thursday said enemies of the party are trying to end the movement by propagating false accusation against it. He also said that his fight will continue despite the allegations. Hussein's statement comes hours after the BBC, citing unnamed Pakistani sources, reported that the MQM was receiving funds from India. It also claimed that India's intelligence agency, the RAW, has trained hundreds of MQM militants in explosives and weapons. The party also issued a statement on its website rejecting the claims. The MQM has rejected all the allegations levelled in the BBC report and is a patriotic party that believes in a unified and stable Pakistan, the party said. Following the report, Pakistani authorities are looking into the possibility of slapping treason charges against the fourth largest political party in the National Assembly. Pakistan Foreign Ministry said all aspects of the issue are being looked into. India has, however, termed the reports baseless. Shortcomings of governance cannot be rationalized by blaming neighbors, Indian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Vikas Swarup said in a statement. The MQM, which draws its support from the Urdu-speaking Muhajirs who migrated from India to Pakistan during partition, is a formidable political force in southern Sindh province. It has been for long accusing Pakistani security agencies of abduction and extrajudicial killing of its activists. Party chief Hussain, who fled the country in 1992, now lives in London but continues to control the day-to-day affairs of the party. He often addresses his supporters via video conferencing.
Myanmar's opposition leader and pro-democracy activist Aung San Suu Kyi cannot run for the country's presidency after the parliament voted against a proposed constitutional amendment on Thursday. This comes after majority of the parliamentarians oppose the charter changes, giving a major blow to Suu Kyi's hopes to coming to power in the upcoming elections. Thursday's decision followed a three-day joint session held to debate changes to the army-drafted constitution. The development also means that the military's veto power remains intact. Suu Kyi had in June 2006 announced a willingness to run for the Myanmar presidency in 2015 polls. Her party, the National League for Democracy, had swept the last general elections in 1990. It, however, couldn't assume power after then ruling military junta ignored the results. Nobel laureate Suu Kyi has been fighting to establish democracy for decades. She was kept under house arrest by the army for nearly 21 years, from 1989 until her release in 2010. Pakistan is trying to silence voices criticizing its illegal occupation of Kashmir by arresting activists, exiled nationalist leaders have claimed. Speaking at the United Nations Human Rights Commission meeting, they urged the world body to put pressure on Islamabad to release political prisoners.
Pakistan recently held an election in Gilgit-Baltistan, a region Islamabad carved out of its occupied territory of Kashmir. However, the elections were marred with allegations of fraud and intimidation of nationalist leaders. Speaking at the ongoing session of the UNHRC in Geneva, Kashmiri leaders said activists protesting the elections were beaten up and taken into police custody.
Recently, Nadir Hassan Khan and other nationalist leaders have been arrested in Gilgit-Baltistan who were peacefully protesting and leading a rally to submit a memo to UN sub-office against farce election in Gilgit-Baltistan for the release of Babajan and Iftikhar Hussain and other political activists who are charged under Anti-Terrorist Act and facing 40 years life imprisonment.
He called on the world body to pressurize Pakistan to release the illegally detained political prisoners.
We urge upon the Council to take note of this unfortunate situation and flagrant human rights abuse by the Islamabad and its local agents, and to put pressure on Pakistan for immediate release of all political prisoners.
Pakistan, which treats the remote region as a colony, is building a series of power projects in the ecologically fragile area, ostensibly to resolve the acute power shortage which has plagued Pakistan for decades. But despite a promise of free electricity and due royalty, whatever power is generated gets diverted towards lighting up the big cities of Pakistan, leaving this region in darkness. Its most ambitious infrastructure project, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, is also being built in blatant violation of the UN resolution which identified the area as a disputed territory and forbids construction of such structures.
Islamabad is constructing mega dams. Proposed China-Pakistan Economic Corridor project, which runs across our region before it enters Pakistan. Mega projects in disputed territory of Kashmir is a clear violation of international laws and UNCIP resolutions on Kashmir.
The occupied region of Gilgit-Baltistan is a picture of absolute neglect and its community deprived of its basic rights.
Former Pakistan captain Zahir Abbas has been appointed as the new president of the International Cricket Council. The decision was made during the cricket body's annual conference in Bridgetown on Wednesday. The legendary batsman will replace Bangladesh's Mustafa Kamal, who resigned from his post in April. 67-year-old Abbas, who played 78 international test matches for Pakistan, will have a year term in office as the ICC president, which is largely a titular post. Cricket's top governing body, the ICC, has 105 members, including 10 full members, 38 associate countries and 57 affiliate countries. A faction of Afghan Taliban has raised doubts about Pakistan's claims of a peace dialogue process with the Kabul government last month. Pakistan had this week said the two sides met in China for peace and reconciliation.
Downplaying the meeting, a faction of the Taliban leadership on Wednesday denied that the peace talks between Afghan officials and its senior leaders were authorized by the group. Pakistan's National Security Advisor Sartaj Aziz had on Monday confirmed that negotiators from both the sides met in China's western Urumqi last month to help end hostilities and revive a national peace process. He had further said that Pakistan would be facilitating another round of talks later this month. A Taliban spokesperson disassociated his group from any such meet and added that the leadership will disown members who had attended it. Its leadership council said no one outside their Qatar office would represent the group if they met anyone. Ever since the inauguration of this office, no one else has been granted permission to meet and discuss political affairs with anyone as a representative of Islamic Emirate without receiving prior authorization by either the leader of Islamic Emirate or the political office itself, the Taliban said. While for some, the statement has brought a setback towards reconciliation process, it has also opened a growing split within the Taliban ranks. It has also raised questions of the role of the political and military leadership of Pakistan in the reconciliation efforts. Islamabad was one of the only few of backers of the Taliban during its regime in the late 1990s.
A memorandum by the Asian Centre for Human Rights has asked the UNHRC to pass a resolution against Maldives for undertaking harsh measures against political oppositions. Calling the Maldivian Supreme Court a rubber stamp of President Abdullah Yameen, the memorandum criticized the court for curbing the engagement of the Human Rights Commission of Maldives. President Yameen had on Tuesday demanded the UN to help resolve the political crisis in the country, which was triggered after the imprisonment of former President Mohamed Nasheed. The leader of Maldivian Democratic Party, who is serving a 13-year jail term on terrorism charges, was transferred to house arrest on Sunday for health reasons, which was further extended by 8 weeks. The international community has been calling for Nasheed's release, claiming that he was denied a fair trial. Well, that's the way it was in South Asia this evening. Before we conclude the top stories once again. Death toll in Pakistan heat wave crosses 1,000. India pledges $1 billion for reconstruction of quake-ravaged Nepal. And activists seek UN help to release Kashmiri leaders from Pakistani detention. Now our viewers can watch a show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on Facebook.com/SAsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter @SAsiaNewsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We'll see you same time tomorrow.